Here's something nobody tells you when you become a caregiver. You are also quietly becoming someone's project manager. You're tracking appointments, medications, legal documents, family dynamics, and somewhere underneath it all, you're trying to figure out what this person actually wants, what they're afraid of, what they need you to know, even if they can't bring themselves to say it out loud. My guest today has spent her whole life in that space, first as a daughter, then as a caregiver, and now as a professional dedicated to making sure families don't have to navigate death and dying without a map. Nikki Weiss is a digital thanatologist, and if that word is new to you, stick around. It was new to me too, because you're going to want to know it. Thanatology is the study of death and dying, and Nikki specializes in what it looks like in the modern world. Your phone, your social media, your subscriptions, your photos, your passwords, and who, legally and practically, is going to handle all of them when you're gone. We are, as she puts it, the first generation dying with more digital assets than physical ones, and most of us have done absolutely nothing about it. Nikki's personal story is remarkable. She lost her father at 11, became her mother's primary caregiver at 21, and later cared for her grandmother through dementia. Today, her daughter is navigating caregiving for her fiancé, who was re-diagnosed with stage 4 brain cancer just 10 days after they got engaged. This isn't theoretical for Nikki, it's her life. And because of that, this conversation is honest in a way that most conversations about death just aren't. We're going to talk about grief bots, digital legacy directives, why caregiver burnout is killing people before the patients, and what it really means to build a final playbook for your life. Not when you're facing a diagnosis, but right now while everything is fine and everyone is getting along. It's a really fresh and lovely look at, realistic and lovely look at what it means to make plans for the future, even when you're not a part of it, or how to navigate these conversations with your families. So without further ado, here's Nikki. Welcome to And Both, a podcast about what it really looks like to put yourself on the list while raising kids and doing all the other things life asks of you. I'm your host, Ashley Blackington, and on this show, you'll hear conversations with moms who are figuring it out in their own ways, plus a few solo episodes from me from time to time. It's not about having all the answers, it's about sharing stories, learning from each other, and knowing we don't have to choose between either or when we're living in the middle of and both. Let's get into today's episode. Hello and welcome to the And Both podcast. My guest this week is Nikki Weiss. Nikki, welcome.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
I'm excited for you to be here because I think this is it's a cool topic, which probably not a lot of people think, but I think it's really interesting and very timely, very overdue to talk about. But before we jump into that, how about if you let people know who you are and what you'd like them to know about you?
Nikki Weiss. So I am a digital thanatologist. For some people, that word thanatology might be a new word of the day. So the way I describe, thanatology, you heard of psychology, sociology, anthropology. So thanatology is study of death and dying. I specialize in the digital aspect of death and dying, especially in this age. So here I am. I'm also, bringing this death tech space with a project management framework because, Ashley, I don't know why, but death is such a taboo topic. And I think because it's so taboo, people don't plan for it. And so as a project manager, that's my innate superpower is let's just plan stuff. So when I talk to people, specifically caregivers, end of life, they just want to put their head in the sand or feel overwhelmed or procrastination or, oh, I've got time. So I'm really on a mission right now to bring this conversation to light. And I think the caregiving piece is really percolating right now. That topic is just becoming more and more sensitive, especially since this sandwich generation is being squeezed pretty hard right now.
Yeah, I've heard the phrase the panini generation over the sandwich generation because it feels more like hot melting versus like this delicately stacked sandwich.
Peanut butter and jelly versus like, no, we're going to,
we're going to grill it.
We're going to try and squish so much information and overload. And I'm going to now, I'll say panini. Yeah, no, that's very descriptive. Thank you.
Yeah. So how did you get into this? Because this was not always your path, right?
So as a caregiver, both my parents, I don't know if you could see, if this is a video, but if it's their video, those are my parents behind me. So both my parents passed away by the time they were 50. So I was 11 when my dad died, and then 21 my mom passed. And so just to take a step back on the caregiver side, even as a child, my mom was 40 by the time my dad died. And she was the quintessential of housewives. She didn't have a college degree. She met my father when she was 14. They were married just shy of her 18th birthday and had all her children by the time she was 30, widowed by 40. And I was the youngest. So by the time my dad died, she herself was going through an identity crisis. So as a teenager, it felt like to me the roles were reversed. And in many ways, I ended up being her caregiver or emotional support as the youngest in the house and trying to keep her. And back then, my gosh, this was back in the late 70s, early 80s. Like, so bereavement, grief, those weren't words we used. Certainly mental health was not. The fact that my mother would be under the covers for weeks, like that was never discussed. So fast forward, my mother eventually was able, even with her mental health issues and me as a teenager, both of us like trying to grow up together, she did find love again and was able to remarry, which I felt great because it took some of the load off of me. But then 10 years after my father died, my mother came down with terminal cancer.
Wow.
And I was 21 now. So here it's like doing, I wouldn't say a repeat because it was very different, 11 versus 21, because now at 21, I physically was her primary caregiver because her second husband was ill-equipped emotionally and physically to take care of her. So I came in, I actually dropped out of college to take care of her. It was short, it was 3 months. She chose not to do any sort of treatment, having seen what my father went through. And so just shy of her 51st birthday, she passed. And so here I am, dealing with funeral arrangements. And this is something we didn't talk about. She didn't even say the word. She wasn't even on hospice. She didn't want to say the words I'm dying. So as a 21-year-old, it was so hard to have that context. Life continues.
Yeah. That life continues, I feel like, is one of those pieces that there's so many people that I've been fortunate enough to speak with on the show where it's you have these moments and these things that happen in your life where time stops for you, but time never really stops. And so it's this weird, it's like I wish I could think of a good movie clip, but the ones where like the person stops and then everything fast forwards around them. It's like the cars go by and the sun goes up and down and all of this. And I feel like this is really representative of that. It's like how this is your whole world, but the world keeps going. And how do you get offline and online?
And it is there's been multiple times in my life when there's been like driving and a deer runs in front of the car. Like there is that slow motion. It's kind of a weird moment that there is that slow motion reality that happens. But somehow we keep moving forward. Life keeps pushing us forward. So mom dies. I go through, trying to raise myself as a 21-year-old. Luckily, I had siblings older that were able to support, close family knit. But then after I had my children, I actually ended up being the primary caregiver for my grandmother. So here I am, opportunity number 3 in a different way, but still being that caregiver. Like, okay, now, because my mother was gone and my grandmother needed support, end-stage dementia. So we're just constantly, and I just want to say, though, that I'm wired. I really just want to acknowledge not everybody's wired to be a caregiver. Mm-hmm. And it's nothing that you can force. It really is a calling or just something like, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm raising my hand to take care of my grandmother. Like, there's so many other people in the family. Why is it me? But it was. Mm-hmm. I ended up actually professionally working in hospice the first part of my career. And so I guess people who find themselves in this profession, in the clinical work, again, we're just natural hand raisers. Say, I'll do it. I'll take care of them. I'm comfortable enough to be with somebody in that stage. So multiple times.
Yeah.
God, and the story continues. It even continues even now. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it's that idea of like, are you born this way? Are you made this way? Like, having to walk through that experience of seeing somebody pass as an 11-year-old, does that set you up for this level of comfort or seeing how terrible things are, whatever? Just this, not level of comfort, but this you've already seen it once before. Because I feel like for so many people, that experience of seeing someone at the end of their life, whatever, does not happen really until you're in your 20s, 30s. I mean, 20s would be early, 30s. But now, you and I have spoken about this before. Caregiving is starting so much younger, and people are having to navigate stuff that, like, they might be the only person in the room. So whether or not they want to raise their hand, there's nobody else there. And so people say, by default, this is you because you're next in line responsibility wise. You answered the call in the emergency room from the emergency room. Here you go, it's yours. And so how do people move from whether or not this is something that they're hardwired for or comfortable with to the space of like, oh, I'm it. I'm the one running point on this.
So another piece of slice of life for me is fast forward, right? So now I'm 58. My daughter, who's 34, she's now going through it with her husband. So let me put the scenario down. Anna was never that kid she never liked to babysit. She really was not a caregiver at all. Firstborn, more self-centered probably than my other children. And she actually at a very young age decided that she knew she did not want to have children because her response always was like, I love kids, but I like my money and my time more. So she made a very conscious decision, when she was dating that she didn't want children. She was looking for a partner who did. She ended up meeting a man who had had cancer in his 20s, and she knew that. And so he didn't want children either. They got engaged in February of 2025. 10 days after the engagement, Ashley, he was re-diagnosed with stage 4 brain cancer.
Wow.
So they're not married yet, but 10 days after the engagement. So cancer that had been abated for 8 years now came back, stage 4. So she had to sit and redefine her life. Obviously, as a thanatologist, we spent a lot of mother-daughter time together. We've been talking about this. And for her, she did not raise her hand for this.
Mm-hmm.
She actually did everything she could to avoid, she felt like she was going to live a very self-centered, and I don't mean that negatively. It was just a choice how she was going to live her life. And she wasn't married yet. So I've had several conversations with people who are like, oh, I would have walked away from that relationship. Not everybody, but some people are like, yeah, that's a hard one to swallow. Anna and I talked. We spent a lot of time together, and they get married. They moved up the wedding date, and things aren't looking good for him. He's making the decision actually in March to discontinue his chemo treatment. But she's had to become a caregiver in a way like she never could imagine. And she also was realizing like, oh, this is a superpower. Like she's kind of leaning into it. But there's a lot that goes to it.
Yeah. Have you, like, given that you said that she's all of this up front, she was like, no. Has she circled back on things and sort of that way of like, oh, wait a minute. Like you said, like a superpower, like maybe this isn't so, I think a lot of times it's a fear of the unknown, right? It's like, this could be terrible. Like if you speak to somebody who doesn't have children, I was talking to someone yesterday who did not have kids, and I have 4. And so, the people that don't have any children cannot conceive of the fact that someone has 4 kids. Generally, like I would say 90+% of the time, people are like, that's insane. And I'm like, it's not really. Like 0 to 1 is insane. Everything beyond that is an informed decision, right? 0 to 1 is you have no idea what is happening and your whole life changes. And people that don't know are like, it's got to be so hard. Not the 4, but just being a parent is like, they get sick and and it's expensive and all of that stuff. And I can see how, if you don't have any reference for that, but now, those people, like this person didn't have kids, but like those people that I've met before who don't have kids and then they do have kids and they sort of circle back and they're like, oh, I get it now. Like this is really hard, but there's also so much good that comes out of this and purpose and feeling of being a part of the future.
I can't tell how many people, my contemporaries, friends of mine, who, when I tell them the story, even before they got married, I had several of them say, yeah, I'd walk away from that relationship. I just wouldn't want to have to go walk the path that she's about to take, because we know what that path, that end of life path looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And I could say, Adam maybe did have a thought about that, but her love, commitment, wanting to be a part of his life, not knowing what the future holds, she chose to walk the path. Now, when they ask me, how is she doing? I'm very it's a defining moment. I mean, just for me, when my father died, it was a defining moment. When my mother died, when I took care of my grandmother, every life milestone is a defining moment. So it's going to determine what direction she goes in, whether he lives for another year or for an entire lifetime. Who knows? We don't have a crystal ball. But the point is that even knowing, if I look at her and I look at me, I was like that in DNA, caregiving. Raising my hand was not hard to do. She didn't know how to raise her hand. I worked with her. She came back to me. She did a lot of self-reflection. She's not a 20-something-year-old. She's a 30-something-year-old. So she had at least some context of self-awareness or a deeper level. And she chose. And it's a journey.
Mm-hmm.
But so is getting married, having kids. Like every life decision, this free will that we have is definable. So for her and for us, because now the other thing, so I do emphasize with her is self-care, self-care, self-care. So I would say she's doing well because she is setting those practices, those boundaries, asking for help. His parents live 10 minutes away, right? So, and his parents are extremely grateful to Anna, because if it wasn't for her, it would be on them to take care of him full on doctor's appointments. He had a stroke, so now he's disabled. So it really does take a community. Let me ask you, when you talk to caregivers, do you find that, I don't use the word martyr because but they don't ask it for enough help?
Oh, 1,000,000%.
Okay.
And I think too, the other part is that there seems to be this level of responsibility that people feel when they become caregivers, that as the partner, especially as a partner, that that's the pie. The pie is, if they do less, that person does more, instead of creating space within the pie to have people come in and help.
Right.
And I mean, there's a lot of reasons why, right? Like it could be, where you live in terms of distance from family. It could be resources. It could be all of those things. But I think that for me, in the people that I have met building in the caregiving space, a lot of people are like, but I should be the one that takes on this extra so that they, from them or whatever. So one of the things that I always say to people, like in my private practice and stuff like that, is before you feel like I'm strung out, I cannot do anymore, I cannot take anymore, like you have to build a scaffolding for yourself and this relationship, and how that balance is going to change way before you need it. Because you don't want to be there when the house feels like it's on fire, go with a spray bottle. You need a moat.
And what you said, again, if I look at my daughter's situation, it is because of me. It's because unlike a client, I'm going to she didn't want to talk about things. And I'm like, we need to talk about these things. And even as a, professional, the story I tell, oh my gosh, she knew that he needed a plan. He needed to get his will, power of attorney, medical advance directive. He needed to have those conversations. And even with stage 4 at 34 years old, third time having brain cancer, not looking good, he didn't want to talk about it. So then I had to support her to get him to talk about it and to get him to get his ducks in order. And it's been an uphill. It's been like rolling a boulder uphill. The conversations, the planning, the process, the patience, because sometimes you roll it up a little bit and then you have to wait till they make a decision, or wait till they get comfortable with this situation, or coming to reality, quality over quantity, for him to choose that he is making a conscious decision not to continue with chemotherapy after a certain period of time. That took a lot of self-reflection. It took a lot of sitting and just deciding what does he want his life to look like.
Yeah, I think that in those situations, it seems like oftentimes there's two paths. There's either the people who they find comfort in knowing. So it's like, let's rip the Band-Aid off and let's get it all done and open and addressed. And then there's people that are like, it's that notion that like, if I talk about it, then it becomes like a potential. You know what I mean?
The superstition, like, oh,
Yeah.
we have a Yiddish word. It's like, don't give yourself a kinher. It's like, oh, if you talk about it, it'll happen. And in my mind, for my final playbook, which is the product that we encourage people to build out, just have a plan. Just like build a plan. It's like carrying an umbrella on a rainy day. If you carry it, you won't need it. If you need it, you know where it is, right? So live fully, die ready. And what does that look like? We don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, death is indiscriminate. It doesn't care how old you are. It doesn't care. And when I say death, I always mean death, dying, or incapacitation, right? Because, from an educational standpoint, we're all going to die. Part of living is dying. We'll die one of three ways, either sudden and unexpected, or we'll get a terminal diagnosis or condition, like my son-in-law, or like my father-in-law, who's 95 years old, who's in a nursing home. He can't hear, he can't see, he can't toilet himself. Like that end of life, we're going to go one of those three ways. But you better have a plan regarding your legal, financial, physical, and digital aspects of the life that you've built today. Because those are all either decide now, because if you don't, the chaos is going to ensue for those you leave behind. So what I'm seeing in my space, and especially in the caregiver space, is that these caregivers, you've got caregivers that are dying before the patient because of burnout, because they've just overextended themselves, and because they didn't have a plan, a comprehensive, I'll raise my hand and I'll take care of spouse or mom or dad or whoever it is, Uncle Joe, for thinking that it wouldn't go on. It would be a couple weeks, a month or two, not years. And now they're stuck and they can't get out of the quagmire.
Yeah. And they can't get out of the default position either, because if you're the one who holds all the info, if you're the one who holds all of the nuts and bolts of how this thing goes, you can't really piece that apart and hand it out to people, because eventually, it's just easier. You know everything. You're the one that has been taking these calls and going
You're
to
the
these
superwoman.
The super. And it's predominantly women. And that's another part, is that it is predominantly women who are fulfilling these caregiving positions and continuing to pour out from their own physical, mental, financial, emotional health in order to make sure that everyone else has their needs addressed.
What I'm reading on some of the blogs is that because that one sibling said, okay, I'll take care of mom, they might have been in a situation where maybe they had less responsibility, or they just are that project manager sort of type of personality, whatever the decision was that they would take on the role. What I'm hearing is that because the one family member takes on the role, the other family members are like, oh, she's got it. And they walk away, or I'm an hour away. I can't get there and, watch mom, while you go to a doctor's appointment or get your nails done, whatever it is, self-care. And so then it just ends up being like a tighter, like knot situation, to the point where if it was me, I'd be standing screaming at my family, siblings, and saying, if you don't help me, no one will be here to do this. It needs to be community based. So now I'm thinking, what was it like? I mean, let's if we could historically do the breakdown. I mean, 60 years ago, people were dying in their homes. They weren't dying as long.
Yeah.
Families were more close knit. I feel like if we just start listing, like, how did we get here?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things that have changed over time, right? When you talk about families are smaller, families are more spread out, families are more digital, instead of being, instead of someone saying, I've got to come over and take you to this appointment, it's we can get you to the appointment, but I can see all of the updates that I need to see online. So stuff is simpler, and it's more complicated. it's easier, and it's also more impossible all at the same time. But I also think
It's and both.
yeah, and both. I love it. But I think that the thing that is interesting that really still isn't addressed is this idea of there's no way out. Like martyrdom is the end game, whether you want it to be or not, because the person who ends up in that default caregiving role, when they say I've had enough, it's pushed upon them as though it's a personal failure. Like they couldn't finish the job or they couldn't go all the way through to the end. And that's just not accurate. It's that person has a capacity for whatever it is. And when they have reached the capacity, some people it may take not very long and some people it may be years into it. But that this idea of like once it all rolls downhill to one person and they can't, it's like, oh, well, now I guess we all have to figure it out. And what I want for the world to do is move into a direction of before we run that person into the dirt and then tell them or make them feel like they somehow failed in their role, how do we circle a flock of caregivers around them so that this never happens and that person is able to continue, maintaining their own health, maintaining their own life, maintaining all of those things, because not everyone goes into the bathroom with somebody to help them get cleaned up after go to the bathroom, right? It's one person, but that person doesn't need to do 27 different things in order to be doing it right or a good job. Hey, it's Ashley. When I started my business, my first business, it felt like I had two options: figure it out on my own or pay a high ticket price for a coach, and there was nothing in between. I was a beginner trying to make smart decisions without burning myself out or my savings, so I built what I wish had existed. This course is 6 clear, practical modules that take you from first decisions to launch and beyond. No fluff, just guidance, structure, and support. And no how bad do you want it, or we all have the same 24 hours in the day guilt trips. I created it to help women build lives and businesses on their own terms, not just to sell a course. Listeners can take 20% off with the code NURTURED20. For more information, go to andbothpodcast.com.
So let's bring in, we have the human, I call it human equity, right? This is like the human piece of caregiving. But I have to now bring into the technology because technology is advancing. We're kind of in a weird space right now because we don't want technology to take over our humanity. And at the same time, can it be a tool to help us? So there are organizations such as Age Tech Collaborative, which is coming out of AARP, and that they are innovators that are looking for technology that will enable us to live a better quality of life, longer, better with the aid of tools and technology. I mean, Dovetail, for example, that's a death tech, where people can go ahead and start networking to look for that caregiver support. And then we're moving into robotics. What's that going to look like? I know several people right now that they have aging parents who are still living independently. Whether they should or shouldn't is questionable, but the economics don't let them move into a facility because $10,000 a month at minimum. So what they've done is the children, the adult children, are leaning on technology to kind of do a better job at monitoring mom. So cameras in the apartment, they've got these automated pill dispensers, like there are trackers and apps that they're starting to implement technology in the house. So someone of need can feel safer. Those that are taking care of them can go to the store because they've got cameras on them. And additional technology that I just think is advancing, like even just the Hoyer lift, right? So I think that the design and the ergonomics of a Hoyer lift, like how amazing is that going to be in protecting the caregiver's physical body as well?
Oh, I mean, yeah, I've seen a lot of people come in when I was working in inpatient that were there for injuries related to caregiving, knees, hips, lower back, because caregivers don't have any training, often don't have any training. And so making that happen. But in the realm that you are in this digital death and dying preparation space. Where have you seen that evolve, and how is what you're building a part of that?
So first of all, just opening up the conversation. Hey, death, dying, incapacitation. Can we put a plan in place while everyone is feeling good and liking each other right now? Because if there's two things that are going to break families apart, is usually death and money.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can put like legal documentation, what is it that you want? Who's going to be, and again, this is back to that project management piece. So for my final playbook, what we're doing is taking the project management framework and de-emotionalizing this pre-planning process, right? So the idea is like, yes, death and dying, incapacitation, it's sad to think about, but if we just put this non-emotional plan in place, identify who your stakeholders are, what the risks are, what your timelines are, right? Knowing that we can all document this and then life is going to happen. But as long as we've documented, at least we know what mom wanted if she became incapacitated, or if there was a terminal diagnosis and you live in a state that offers medical aid in dying. You've done that research before. You've already made that decision instead of, oh my gosh, I don't, what are my options? I just got diagnosed with a terminal. Same thing with the digital piece. So the primary problem right now is just people don't want to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
The thought of, hey, mom, who's, in her 70s, child is in 35, but child is about to start their family and trying to build their career. But starting to see moms starting to like, doesn't remember where things are, or she's slowing down. And now I'm trying to build my life up and I have to look in the back seat to see what's going on here. So waiting until the car crash versus, all right, can we all put our seatbelts on, pull over and just have a conversation? Hey, what if?
Mm-hmm.
What do you want?
Yeah.
Who do you want?
I think too, on behalf of the person at the center of that, the person who is going to have people provide care for them, another thing that doesn't get talked about enough is exactly what you're saying, is how quickly families can be torn apart by a lack of that conversation. And also the sharpness around that conversation only intensifies the longer you let it go. So if you're in a space where there are no stakes, right? Like everything is fine, and we are all acknowledging that this is a part of living, and we are coming at it from and empowering that person to make their own choices for themselves so that their wishes can be followed, so that their needs and their whatever, however they want things to go, is getting everybody on the same page, provides a level of comfort that's really hard on behalf of the person who is aging or whatever is going on with them. But it's hard to do that, right? It's hard to acknowledge that like someday you won't be here. It's hard to acknowledge that something could happen, all of that. But think about the level of care and comfort that you are providing for your family, because then instead of, I think this is what mom wants, I think this is what mom wants, and now you've got 2, 3, 4 people standing outside of a hospital room, which I have seen many, many, many times, arguing over what they want for mom,
Right.
because they all have a different perception of what she would want based on their relationship with her, over her speaking out to everyone and saying, these are the things I want. I have seen that fight
Too
so
many
many
times.
times. So
Yeah,
many times.
I agree. And so what, with my final playbook, what we want to do is we want to bring this conversation way upstream,
Mm-hmm.
right? We're not waiting till the diagnosis or the hospice social worker is coming in to let you know that, she's on her way out. We want to be having this conversation, maybe not at Thanksgiving, but maybe the day after Thanksgiving, right? It's like, can we sit around? So let me just put a little checklist together. So my sweet spot is the digital piece, right? So I love to talk, let's talk about, can we pre-plan? Can we have the conversation? It's not a one and done conversation either. This is an iterative conversation, because why? Life changes, people change. Who your executor is today might not be the same person tomorrow. Why? Scenarios is that your children, mom says, mom and dad are together and life is good. we're starting to see this, silver, they call it the silver wave of divorce. I don't know if you've heard that term.
Oh, God.
Have you
Poor
heard the term?
silver. I just they keep calling everything silver like it's metallic. It's like people are aging and the population's they called it the silver tsunami when I was in graduate school, and I was like, I don't know.
Well, now I'm hearing that there's this, the 50s, 60s, and 70 years are getting, the 60 and 70 year olds, they're getting divorced.
Oh, God.
Like they've been married 40 years.
Yep.
And what's happening is that more women than men, they're looking at the men going like, you know what? I've been with you for 40 years. You have not taken care of yourself. And I see what's down the pike, and I'm not raising my hand to wipe your ass when the time comes. And so these women are like, they're still in their, late 50s, early 60s, still feeling like, vibrant, have a lot to live for. And they're like, I don't want that to be the end of, for my act 5.
Mm-hmm.
So they're getting out of their marriages. And I'm starting to hear this, and these, again, we're women focused right now, but I just want to be, this can affect anybody. But if we're just going to narrow down the scenarios. So now you have these single men who don't know how to take care of themselves, because the women have been taking care of them and managing and project managing their lives for the last 40 years. So now the parents are divorced, and now who's going to take care of dad?
Right.
Dad's going to be calling the kids. And I would say dad usually calls the son more than the daughter.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Ooh, that's fascinating.
Yeah. Well, because they, and then the daughter-in-law usually picks up the slack.
Talk about a role you did not gift with purchase on that one.
Did not sign up for. Just for time's sake, there are a couple concepts I do want to start bringing out from the digital piece, right? So digital legacy, when you're doing this pre-planning phase, right? I want people to know the emotional piece is important, right? Getting all your legal documents. But I just want to mention, if you're not aware, that you and I, we're the first generation to be dying with more digital assets than physical ones. So I just want to take, a little bit of time here and really start to highlight what this digital legacy means, and that just like you have to manage their healthcare, someone's going to have to manage their digital assets when there's an incapacitation or death. And I don't know from where you sit, if you started to hear some of those conversations and challenges?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of those things that sort of follows in a second wave behind this, right? Is that when we move into this new era of having a digital footprint and what that could be, now it's how do we close this down state-wise? How do we, who's responsible for this? Who's able to access this? And all of those pieces. It's not like, you go down to the basement and you open the filing cabinet and you're like, this is all the information I need and I can go through these forms. So I would love for you to speak to what that looks like, or what that can look like for people.
And I want to identify that the person who's going to, and that's why I feel like it needs to be a team, right? An interdisciplinary team within the family, right? So you might have a member of the family who's going to physically take care of, we'll call it mom, right? Who's physically going to take care of mom. But then maybe that person has so much to do with the physicality of taking care of mom that they can't take care of the financial piece. So who in the family is ethical, honest, that can take on the fiduciary duty of the financial piece? And now we have to add the digital piece, right? So we need somebody who has a level of tech savviness, or at least tech comfort, not tech timid, to be able to now handle and manage, and it's getting more complex, the digital aspects of someone's afterlife. So here's a couple concepts that, again, as people are listening, if they can take notes. One is their phone, right? Think about multi-factor authentication. If that person dies, what happens to the data in their phone? Because if that person is dead, just because you have the password, you legally cannot go into their phone. People don't realize that. Because I ask people like, oh, so-and-so died. If you died tomorrow, how is your loved ones going to get in your phone? They're like, oh, my husband, he's got my password. I'm like, no, that's illegal. Like not wearing your seatbelt illegal, right? It's like, it's only get penalized if you get caught.
Mm-hmm.
So like understanding what legacy contacts are, how to shut down social media accounts, these reoccurring subscriptions that are attached to credit cards, right? We're hearing more and more fraud, how people are dying and nefarious people are coming in and grabbing their post-mortem identity and opening up bank accounts. So this is actually a very we're shaking our heads, right? This is like, oh my gosh, another layer of the complexity. And again, one caregiver can't take care of all this.
Mm-hmm.
So that's more the scary stuff. Now let's look at more of the memorialization of someone's digital afterlife. Have you ever heard of a grief bot?
A grief bot? No. Ooh, I'm fascinated.
So technology is now developing where AI, you can upload either by choice or not, a person's digital life, right? Photos, videos, right? And you can actually, and this technology exists today, this is not sci-fi, create a grief bot, a technological likeness of the person who is either dying or dead. So that person can live on when their physical body is gone.
Okay, yes. I did not know that they were called grief bots, but I cannot.
Well, those are the memorializations, right? So
Yeah.
a grief bot might be more of an impartial AI that might have more like a like you're talking to ChatGPT or something. Like that might be, the grief bot might be a more impartial, where you can actually, Black Mirror, like the television show Black Mirror, you can actually today start to create that avatar. There's a company out there called Two-Way, number 2, WAI. They have an app where you videotaping grandma for a minute or two. And now that because the AI has 2-minute likeness of grandma, she can live on forever. You can interact with her.
I have heard of this technology this was a thing on maybe 60 Minutes, and this was years ago. They interviewed as many Holocaust survivors as they could find, this company, and I can't remember the name of it, but they interviewed as many Holocaust survivors as they could find because, time marches on and these people are dying because we don't live forever. And so that was this idea of like preserving these stories and these experiences, and you can talk to these people and ask them questions. So they sat down. It must have been hours and hours and hours of questions and answers and things like that. And it all was uploaded into this database and stuff like that. My question in all of this is, are we delaying acceptance when we put that in? Or are we, I don't know, like, that person is gone and you no longer have, but like, are we just trying to not deal? So it's like, they're not really gone. Like, yes, you can't hug them, you can't see them and all that stuff, but you can still talk to them.
But actually, the technology's there where you can have monitors in every part of your house. And that avatar of your loved ones can be embedded into your home system. So every room you go into, they're with you. You can have the conversation. What do you think I should have for breakfast today? What's the weather like? Just like you're talking to Siri, but instead of talking to Siri or Alexa, you're talking to your beloved loved one who has passed. So just for time's sake, and I know we're coming up on time here, one request I'm asking of people, I'm recommending as a digital thanatologist, is just like you have a medical advance directive and you have power of attorney, there is another document I'm recommending people to do, which is called a digital legacy advance directive, which is that you are going to give somebody legal access to be your proxy for your digital assets, your digital afterlife. So what does that include? Mom is on her hospice. She's not gone, but she's on hospice. She might be alert, aware, maybe. But maybe saying, hey, Mom, can I get digital consent for you to use your photos, to create a montage, to be able to put it onto a website so people who aren't able to attend your funeral, we can put a QR code on your headstone that someone can walk through the cemetery and they can scan and they can learn more about you. I really want that for you, Mom. I want to know that you're always there and I can always access you. Sibling number 2 says, hell no, I don't want that. So Mom needs to make that decision before she goes. Does she give digital consent to memorialize her afterlife?
I feel like we somewhere along the lines crossed over to this land of like, do you remember when when you were younger and it's like somebody said something and they're like, someone's going to come back and haunt you. It's like we're signing up to be haunted, but we have control over how we're haunted. Like it's not theoretical anymore. It's like, you can have that person like weigh in on their opinion versus when you're kids and you're like, this person's going to come back and haunt you someday. And you're like, what does that even mean?
That to me is more settling than what the reality is.
Yeah.
Right? Because that haunting, I don't know where is spirit? What is it, afterlife? Like, what does that haunting really mean? But your digital life, that's living on somebody's server. That's digital assets that family member, I don't own. I don't control it. I can't monetize on it. The company who owns it, who houses it, they ask me to sign a 20-page privacy and security document that I don't understand.
Yeah, I mean, it's so important and how we have moved so far into the digital space now. I think it's such an important thing that maybe even that's the first part of the conversation, right? Is like, what do you want to do with your pictures is not what do you want your end of life decisions to be? Like maybe that's how people get into this conversation in a way that feels less sharp or aggressive.
But how many times have you heard, dead is dead. What do I care? They can figure it out.
I mean, more than one, less than all of them.
Or, well, here's the other reality, Ash, is years ago, we died with a box of photos. You have 4 kids. How many pictures are in your phone?
Oh, yeah. It's a lot. It's a big thing. And I mean, now people are putting those pictures, they're making the pictures digital.
That's what I'm saying. So who owns that?
So my question that is not related specifically to this is that so death, dying, incapacitation, very heavy, right? When it happens, very heavy to like sort of be in that space around that going on. You're experiencing this personally within your family, all of that. Like, how do you take care of you inside of this is the space that you're in all the time?
Me personally, the fact that professionally I talk about it, and yet between my son-in-law and my father-in-law, right?
It's everywhere.
It is. And, every time I, called up a dear friend, and it's like every time I talk to somebody, they have a story to tell, either for themselves or somebody that's, how you doing? Oh, so-and-so is here, in the hospital, or we're dealing with mom. I went to even like my high school reunion. I went to my 40th high school reunion recently, and across the entire group, there was probably 60 of us. The common conversation was what to do with my parents. Everyone has a story about either they're recovering because they went through it, or they're stepping into it about what to do with mom or dad. And it's just a very common theme. So you're asking me, how do I take care of it? I'm wired. So I am wired pretty tight. So it's not as emotionally draining on me. I am pretty good at compartmentalizing as far as I can only do so much. I also, at this point in my life, am not trying to be the savior, where I do believe that some caregivers do have that, I can do it, I can be the savior. And so I don't have that. I feel like that's been a self-preservation tactic that I've been using over the last couple decades. And then just, trying to put everything in reality. Like, I have a weird way of looking at death and dying. It's a journey. It's a continuum. And, be in the emotion. But at the same time, especially since I'm in this, the death space, and, every day I look at AI and how artificial general intelligence is going to come in and affect our digital afterlife. I still, what keeps me focused is this concept of human equity, because the most humanistic experience we will all go through is death, dying, and incapacitation. The other thing is choice. So someone recently did ask me, so you're in the death space, what's your plan? And it's just very personal. As a thanatologist, I would support anybody who comes to me and says, I don't believe in DNRs, or I don't want hospice, and I want you to do everything possible to, okay, that's your belief. versus another person who says, I just got diagnosed and with early onset Alzheimer's. And I'm medical aid in dying is available to me in my state, and I'm going to take care of that sooner than later.
Mm-hmm.
So for me personally, I just have very personal beliefs on what I'm willing to do and what I'm not. And for me, each day is a gift because death is indiscriminate. I mean, I can get in the car and something can happen. So I'm going to live like there's no tomorrow, no regrets. So I think emotionally, I try to take care of myself. Physically, I always look around like, oh, did I write down that password? Did I I try to think ahead, like, oh, my husband, if he just, I do twinge sometimes about how buttoned up are we. I'm so aware nothing's perfect. If there's one message I can leave you with is that having worked in hospice and supported hundreds of families at their final last breaths, the end goal in life is to have a peace of mind.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever you can do in your final days or your final, before you go to bed at night, like every day, what can you do just to like bring a deeper peace of mind to you and those you leave behind?
I love that. I think that's an excellent place to tie everything together. If people have questions about where to find you, they have questions about the work that you're doing and Endevo and all of those things, where can they find you?
Easy to find. Nikki Weiss. I am on LinkedIn. I don't think there's many digital thanatologists out there, but you can find me there. I have a podcast called Death and Dying the Digital Age. And then our company, Endevo, we offer legacy readiness and digital resilience wellness programs for employees. And that's really our main product that we're doing right now. And we do that by building out a final playbook. And if you do finalplaybook.com, you'll be able to find us there as well. So lots of opportunities. We're out there. We're just trying to open up this conversation. And caregiving certainly is a very integral part of this conversation. So thank you and your team, Ashley, for bringing and both to our audience.
It's amazing. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to put all the links in there, and it's the no one gets out of life alive concept, and it's a hard thing to do and talk about, and I think it's wonderful that there are people out there who are putting up their hand and saying, "Hey, listen, I want to talk about this," or if you need to talk about it or whatever. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.